not recorded since Formula One Miami, and it is currently almost June. It's been about 3 weeks, so I have a lot to talk about. Miami was great for Formula One, doing Porsche Carrera Cup as the support series. The race heading down there in the truck was kind of the same as it was for Sebring, because it wasn't all that much further than Sebring is. It's only like another hour and a half, hour 45 minutes without traffic. So, wasn't too bad. Was really amazing to get into Miami and get off of the highway and drive up to the Hard Rock Cafe stadium that the Miami Dolphins play in. That was an extremely awesome experience, seeing that and everything. It was really, really cool. So we got in there on a Tuesday. We unloaded everything in the trailer because the truck could not be on property. The FIA / track managers / IMSA / whoever else was involved ended up giving the Carrera Cup guys their own little garage sections. So we ended up unloading everything, putting everything in the garage section, and I ended up parking the semi-truck down the road at a secure lot. And that was our Tuesday, pretty much. I believe we loaded in at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were done by 6. We had a little issue. The starter on our tugger cart, it's branded Taylor Dunn, but it's like an El Camino style golf cart. It's got a flatbed and has towing capacity for... It's pretty much what we use to pull around our pit box and our tire carts and other things, really to get around on the track in the garage area. I am the tire tech for our team, so I have to use that quite a bit. I load up the tires on the back of it, and I take it over to Yokohama, who is the tire sponsor for the Carrera Cup and our Porsche Sprint Challenge series that we do. So I end up taking the tires over to them, using that a whole lot. The starter went out on it, and we ended up having to borrow another team's Taylor Dunn so we could drag all of our stuff from the loading dock to the garage area, because we could not take the trucks into the garage area because it would require us to take the trucks across the track and into a very small section. And the track management security group did not allow that. So that was kind of all we could do there. We ended up finally getting everything unloaded, and the two crew guys and me the two crew guys that flew down to help unpack, ended up wanting to go golfing, and that's their thing they do when they go to Miami, because we have 3 days. We load in on a Tuesday, and we don't go on track until Friday. So we have Tuesday, we unload. Wednesday, pretty much organization day, setting everything up, setting up canopies for Tire World, where I end up doing all my work pretty much. Setting up our little garage area where our pit box will sit, where our setup pad will sit, where hospitality will end up going. That was pretty much all of Wednesday. Thursday, there was a team manager meeting, and so we kind of had to go to the track then, but that was only them. I dropped them off at the track, and I had to go to 3 different airports to go pick up other crew members to bring them in as they all flew in on Thursday. Then, let's see, Friday started our 2 practice sessions. We were pretty quick. Ryan Yardley's still pretty quick up there that whole entire time. But ACI Motorsports was pretty quick in Miami. Jimmy Libre in the number 2 ACI Motorsports Porsche practice 1, setting the fastest times. And then, of course, our biggest competitor right now in the championship is Riley Dickinson. He ended up 3rd in first practice. Let's see, trying to look through the stats here. Our rookie kid ended up 8th. Ryan actually didn't get a good time in practice 1 in the 78. He ended up having a radiator failure. One of the radiator plugs, I think, ended up falling out. He ended up dumping coolant all over the track, so he really didn't get to practice in practice 1, unfortunately. Practice 2, Riley and Jimmy, the Kelly Moss and ACI cars, really fighting each other. Ryan ended up actually getting practice laps in and was not that far off. Riley topping the charts with a 1 minute 56.865 lap time. Ryan doing a 157.415, just a little over half a second off. Miami was much more competitive. It seemed like the field, when it got into practice, qualifying, race 1, race 2, the field overall just seemed much more competitive, much more like the slate was clean. Sebring was a different story because we had 4 total test days over a 3-week time frame in February for the Sebring race. So a lot of people at the front ended up getting the setups correct at Sebring and running away with it. Like I said, this one's probably going to be a little long, and I'm kind of sorry for that. There's a lot to do, a lot to talk about. Qualifying, Jimmy Libre ended up qualifying on pole. Ryan, right on the outside, just missed pole. Our boy Ryan just missed pole by 0.041 seconds. So close. And race 1 was actually pretty amazing. It kind of sucks. There was a hard fight between Ryan and Libre through the whole race. Libre's teammate Baltaz ended up taking the lead pretty early on, and Jimmy Libre had to fight with Ryan to try to hold him off. They ended up making contact, and Ryan ended up getting spun about halfway through. Libre ended up getting a drive-through penalty for the contact, but both of them ended up finishing in the back of the field. So, yeah, Jimmy ended up finishing 10th overall, while Ryan ended up finishing 12th in race 1. But that wasn't the exciting part. The exciting part came down to Tyler Maxson holding off Riley Dickinson through the entire race. So we didn't give team orders. Tyler was still racing Riley for position, like the whole time. Like I said, at Sebring, Riley was in his own class. He ran away from the field in race 1 in Sebring and race 2 in Sebring and just gapped everybody early on. Riley didn't really have that. He was stuck in traffic the whole time in Miami. He had a hell of a fight with Tyler the entire time. Was spectacular. Coming down to the last lap into the second to last corner, which is a pretty hard left-hander that then leads into the little S-curve at the entrance of pit road to lead to the front stretch. That hard left-hander comes after a 3/4 of a mile backstretch. Tyler, at the last second, ended up passing Michael DeCasadilla from Allegra Motorsports, and then Riley ended up following Tyler past the 11 and ended up trying to dive past Tyler as well. Tyler ended up holding off Riley just enough to come across the line for a second place finish. Amazing finish. It wasn't a win, but a second place after the team car ended up getting spun, knocked out of the top 10, was exciting, especially the passes. Tyler, like I said, is a rookie in Carrera Cup and has shown that he has racing talent. Was able to hold off the guy who's pretty much nodded to win the championship probably this year, and he held him off oh so well, oh so professional. It was just a great race overall. Going into race 2. Race 2 was a little bit more calm. Not as much contact as race 1 really went on until probably closer to the end. Baltaz ended up getting the weekend sweep at Miami, but Top Racing ended up getting the sweep in second places. Ryan ended up, of course, he started second, ended up finishing second. Jimmy Libre ended up finishing down at 6th. He got into some traffic early on and was not able to really get through it. Tyler kind of got stuck in traffic as well, was having a really hard time getting through traffic in race 2. He ended up finishing 7th overall. There was an issue with I think it was, I can't remember exactly if it was the Nola Sport car or the McCain Racing car. But there was a car kind of midfield that ended up having its front splitter just explode down the long backstretch at Miami on the north side of the stadium section. And it was just so weird because he was trying to make a pass to the left, so he was off the racing line, and his front splitter literally exploded into 3 pieces and just littered the track. It was crazy because a couple of guys who were fighting really hard used that lane as okay, there's debris here. I'm going to kind of run here to kind of block the middle of the track, and then all of a sudden I'm going to move to the left and go around the debris, and then the guy right behind me is going to end up running over the debris and maybe get a flat tire. That was their mentality through most of it, but after the second or third lap around it, everybody kind of knew that the debris was there, and it was just this weird, you see on the highway when there's a long line of cars and all of a sudden everybody starts just juking lanes to kind of miss debris in the center of the road, and that's kind of just what it became. I was actually surprised they didn't throw a caution to go get it, as technically it wasn't really on the racing line. But it was so obviously close that if anybody attempted to make a pass, it was literally in that second lane, and you could put it in the racing line. So it was really, really surprising they didn't call a caution to go pick that up. But the race 2 was pretty good as well. The Baltas didn't really run away with it like he did in race 1. So wasn't too bad of a race. I will say it was awesome in Miami to share a pit box with the Red Bull, the Visa Cash App Red Bull racing team. This guy's probably never going to hear this podcast ever in his life, but there was a guy there, crew member. I think his name was dude was awesome. Ended up giving me like a handful of driver cards for Lawson and Hajar. Got like 20 of each, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. I'll probably end up giving them away somehow or something. So, but that was pretty much Miami. Practicing qualifying race 1 was Saturday. Race 2 was Sunday before the F1 race. And then Monday, we loaded 6 a.m. We get there, and it's the craziest ever. One of the teams ended up having their Taylor done stolen. And we had found out that the security cameras showed 2 possibly heavily drunk males with lots of F1 credentials just hop on the cart, drive to the gate, exit the track, and drive down the road. So that kind of sucked for them. They didn't find this out until I think it was 3 or 4 days later is what they said when they were actually given that information. So felt bad. Those guys are really good guys. They didn't deserve that. So, but we ended up asking them about that when we went to COTA, which was literally like a couple of weeks later for Sprint Challenge, because they do the same thing. They are pretty much just like us. They run Carrera Cup, and they run Sprint Challenge, and they run Porsche Club of America. I think they do occasionally. It depends on like the races. So, but that is the next race we did, which was COTA. And the drive home from Miami wasn't too bad. I think I hit some storms in Louisiana coming up. And then, just a standard trucking drive from Miami to Dallas. Although the drive to COTA kind of sucked, because got down there, and it was just as they were doing the heat wave had rolled through, and they were having 105 degree temperatures. Whew, yeah. That wasn't really a fun week. It was hot. Kelly Moss guys, of course, they're from Wisconsin, coming down to Central Texas during one of the biggest heat waves out there. They were all kind of like, "Ooh, this sucks." And we were like, yeah, we're from here, and it sucks. COTA for Sprint Challenge was fantastic. It was a great race weekend. COTA's a great track. Facilities are awesome. Rolling through the tunnel, coming through the track. Seeing the ginormous hill going into turn 1 and coming down into turn 2. It's just really cool to see every time. And then the garage sections are awesome, because Sprint Challenge was the only thing there, really. It was Sprint Challenge, and then we had like a 6-car Ford Mustang series that was running with us. And then I think they were doing some track day stuff as well. But it was Sprint Challenge North America, Sprint Challenge West, and the Endurance Series was down there in COTA. We had a really, really good weekend for COTA between both our Sprint Challenge drivers. Cole Kleck being our rookie and our pro driver, doing a great job, practicing really, really well, being at the top of the boards pretty much the whole weekend. Francisco ended up racing the Sprint Challenge West schedule because he wanted to do the endurance race. And if he ran the North America's schedule, it would have been Sunday during the endurance race day was the North America Race 2. Then immediately it was endurance practice, then endurance qualifying, and then the endurance race. There wasn't a lot of break in between all of those. I think from practice qualifying was about a 45 minutes to an hour. And then from qualifying to a race was like an hour and a half difference. So there wasn't really like much of a break. USA West ended up finishing their 2 races on Saturday at the end of the day. So that gave Francisco enough time to kind of get relaxed, get rehydrated, as he is a gentleman driver. He ended up getting relaxed, getting fluids, getting rested up enough for the endurance race on Sunday. So with Sprint Challenge in the North America series, Cole's our guy. He's got the ability to win the championship, but his one Sonoma up kind of really screwed up his points. So yeah, he's got a tough climb to get back up into the top of the standings. Cole doing really, really well against his race rival Alan Metney, Kelly Moss. They're both within a tenth and a half of each other for practice with old tires. Cole, I think we did old tires for practice 2 as well. And Cole ended up with a 6/10 of a lead for practice 2 over Metney. I think at that point for practice 2, it was a lot hotter in the day because times were way down. Practice 1, times were in the 2:08s. Practice 2, times were barely getting into the 2:09s. A lot of guys were in the 2:10s plus. For COTA, flying, Cole being freaking outstanding. Ended up qualifying on pole with a 2:09.240 lap time. Trying to look through the standings, I thought I'm not seeing it. Do remember them saying something about Alan Metney having an issue for tech. There it is. Don't know why, but he got knocked way back to... It looks like for some reason it says he's Pro-Am. But he's in the lead for the Masters class on the qual. I do remember something was messed up with his qualifying, and so he ended up getting knocked back. He did end up finishing pretty well in race 1. But Cole ended up with the pole officially. The 29.2 track was still stupid hot, stupid slick. It was that way pretty much the entire weekend. Ended up actually happening to race. Oh, I do remember this. Okay, so I have to go back just a little bit. So supposedly that there was something wrong with Alan Metney's car in tech, and so they were taking away his qualifying time. But for some reason, during the races, he was still technically the pole sitter. So Cole had to actually race Metney at the start of the race. The good thing is Cole was able to get him in race 1 on lap 1, coming out of turn 1, going into turn 2. Metney was able to stick with Cole pretty much the whole race. But there was... It was a lot of... If I remember correctly, Cole was really quick in Sector 1. Sector 1 leads from the start-finish line to the end of the S's, which I think is like turn 5 or 6. And then Sector 2 starts the left-hander, the right-hander, and the left-hander down the short chute to turn 11, up 11, and then turn 12 starts Sector 3, which is all of the stadium section to the start-finish line. Cole was faster in Sector 1, Metney was faster in Sector 2, and they would swap back and forth Sector 3 from time to time. Occasionally, Metney would get a faster Sector 1, but he never had a fastest Sector 1. Cole ended up leading the entire race in race 1, with Metney right behind him. Metney seemed extremely pissed off at the end of that race, because Cole was driving a very, very defensive race, not blocking all the way as per se you would say in F1 terms. He wasn't moving and then reactively moving, but he was very defensively placing himself in the right spots on the straightaways and parking himself at the apexes of corners to where Metney wasn't able to get around him. Cole did fantastic that entire race. And he really deserved it after being so quick at Sonoma, sweeping Sebring. It was just one of those things where it's just like he's the fastest guy on track. And so it was great. Then we had another great for the West Series. Like I said, Francisco had moved over to do the West schedule, and I'm looking at it, and it doesn't seem to have... He was supposed to be signed up for the West Series. Maybe if I actually look at the right shit. I'm looking at the wrong track. Yeah, there we go. So Francisco, of course, not doing the greatest of qualifyings. The West Series, though, is a lot smaller overall field. So they end up throwing the GT4 Caymans into the West Series. So the GT3 Cup cars and the GT4 Caymans raced together, and it was okay. Francisco pretty much at the back of the field of the GT3s. The racing in the master class. Of course, he's racing against Scott Blind, Jim Walsh. Like, these guys are pretty quick. They're faster than a lot of Pro-Ams. So, going into race 1, he ended up finishing 5th. And this race really wasn't all that crazy. It was pretty standard race. The almost a huge wreck going into turn 1. The Caymans getting pretty close to the field as they all went into turn 1. So almost kind of got into a huge pileup in turn 1. Luckily, everybody made it through. Francisco ended up, like I said, in 5th. He was pretty much rolling around just fast enough to stay ahead of the Caymans. Like he's a gentleman racer, and he's out there pretty much having fun. A top 5 for him he's top 5 overall, not in class, overall. So that was a fantastic race for him. it was an even better race because in class, he was in the master class, he 5th overall, but he ended up finishing 3rd in class. There was a caution midway for some Caymans that ended up coming together in the S's, and they had to move them out of the way. It really bunched up the field a little bit, which gives Francisco a good boost because he's able to catch back up to everybody. After they went back racing, I think there was like 10 minutes left, so he had like 4 or 5-ish laps. Francisco was in 4th in class. At the time, 6th overall. In the last corner, the master car in front of him ended up spinning in the last corner, and Francisco was able to come across the line in 3rd in class. That is his first podium of the year, and it was exciting for all of us. The fact that Francisco was able to get a podium, a win's a win, and that is definitely a win in our book. Especially with Francisco. Like I said, he's a gentleman driver. He's there to have fun, and we had some extra fun with that 3rd place in class. Race 2 was a little bit more of a cluster. It was lap 1, turn 1, COTA, 16 cars wide, and 8 of them wrecked. The leader ended up getting hit by a guy who missed his braking point and decided to try to attempt to dart in front of everybody and cut across the corner. He ended up hitting the curbing, and it really upset the car even more, and he couldn't control it. Ended up taking out the leader and 3 others. And I believe a Cayman or 2 ended up getting caught up in that as well. Francisco ended up making it through nice and smooth. No damage to the car. Yay! Thank you, Francisco. It's great when a car gets through an accident without getting touched. It has no damage. The official standings for the USA West is not up, so I don't remember exactly where you finished. I believe it was another top 5 overall, but was still like 4th in class. Didn't get another podium. Got close, but yeah. It was a great race weekend in USA West for Francisco. Really definitely give him applause for that. He did a really good job. Moving on to Cole's race 2 that Sunday morning. Cole and Metney both starting on the front row again. Race 2. Start of the race. Turn 1. No different. Cole ends up beating Metney out of turn 1 with a great run. Ended up pulling a 3/4 of a second lead off of Metney through like the first lap and kind of held that for a little while. It seemed like Metney might be able to do like he did in race 1, get close and then kind of stay within that half a second time frame from Cole through the whole race. But it seemed the race was a 40-minute race plus 1 lap, and it just seemed like about the 10 to 15-minute time frame, Metney's tires seemed to kind of start going away as Cole started to gap Metney quite a bit. It was like a 1/4 of a second to a half a second a lap Cole was putting on Metney every lap consistently. And Cole just kind of drove away. Ended up great pace, keeping the tires the right optimal temperature. having the right optimal pressures, going through, and just ended up driving away. Ended up with the win with a 5-second lead over Metney. So Cole with another weekend sweep, winning both races just as he did in Sebring, and should have done in Sonoma if it wasn't for the restart violation. So great weekend for him. The endurance race was actually pretty nice too. Like I said, Francisco and his driving coach ended up doing the endurance race again. Looks like they qualified. Francisco had to qualify the car because he is the gentleman driver. All the gentleman drivers had to qualify the car, and the pro drivers cannot qualify the car. So we got a normal qualifying. We were 11th out of 11 in our class. And then looking at Francisco, I think, ended up going a lap down pretty early. All of this doesn't look right. Yeah, because I'm on the wrong... Hang on, people. There it is. Yeah. Ended up, like I said, ended up a lap down pretty early, and kind of our pro driver, Eric Foss, ended up not really being able to catch back up to the field. So still a good day, top 10 overall with the finish in the endurance race. Ended up with a great weekend. As hot as it was down there in COTA, COTA was a really good race weekend for us, not just because of the wins and the podiums, but like overall, it's a home race for us. We're 3.5 hours up the road from COTA. We're down at COTA quite a bit for testing and track days and stuff like that. Yeah. After coming home from COTA, I had some days off and ended up having a start of the summer tour, as I will say. We just got back from a 2-day testing session in Watkins Glen for the 6 hours of Watkins Glen race weekend with IMSA. So that just started. We drove the truck up to Watkins Glen, and then we kept the truck, the Carrera Cup cars, up in Watkins Glen, parked in their secured lot, flew home, and I will fly back out there here in a couple of days and head to Montreal. I've never been to Canada before. I'm really excited. I've never been out of the lower 48, the mainland USA. I got my passport in January, and I'm looking forward to go to Montreal. Doing F1 Miami was amazing. Doing F1 COTA last year was really cool. Really excited to go to Montreal. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I wish NASCAR kind of went back. That track is an amazing track. It was great for It's great for F1. It was great when the Xfinity Series was up there racing at it. It's a really great track. It's a very infamous track in North America, Canada. So it's going to be great to go up there and do F1 weekend at Montreal Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and then instantly turn around and come back to Watkins Glen for the 6 hours of the Glen race weekend. So I will be very busy after the next couple of days. And then after that, our schedule is then our next Sprint Challenge race will be at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, at the beginning of July, just after the 4th of July race, 4th of July holiday. So It's going to be fun. It's going to be hot. I'm not really looking forward to VIR in July. I've heard that it's brutal in August, and July is probably not much better. So, but yeah, it's, shit. That's been the last couple of days. It's been a very, very crazy couple of weeks. I was trying to record the podcast for the Miami event, and I got so busy trying to get things at the house done and ready for when I left to go to COTA, because I only had several days, like a couple of days after, so it made it really, really hard. But that is pretty much, people. That has been the podcast. I greatly appreciate you listening, and if you want to see any pictures or videos of any sorts, you can head on to my Instagram, which is _trucking. That is where I post all of my pictures and some of the videos that I do. So, give me a follow.